What up? Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and let's get to it. So, Elon Musk, Cathie and Jack Dorsey, what they all have in common, besides being some of the smartest people in the world, Bitcoin. So, I'm just going to go over this very briefly, this talk. I believe that if there are going to be what I'll call one of some of the greatest talks in the history of Bitcoin, I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but really, this one should be framed for the history books because there's so many nuggets in this. So I'm just going to go over this talk, and some of the things that I got out of this talk is at a recent B Word conference. You can find it on Ark Invest. You can check out the YouTube channel. And you have to watch this. I watched it a couple of times, and the more I watch it, the more I get out of it. So I'm just going to put a link below to this talk, and let's get to it. But before we say anything, we just have to comment on Elon Musk's T-shirt. Now this is absolutely rad. The fact that he's wearing this is just so cool. You can see it here. It's the evolution of money. How money went from seashells to to gold and silver, to paper notes, to credit cards, to Bitcoin. So this is a real nice T-shirt, and the fact that he's actually wearing this is what rock stars are made of. But quick biography. Of course, we know Uncle Elon. Elon Musk is the techno guy behind SpaceX, CEO of the boring company Neuralink, and you have to read his biography. I've read his book dozens of times. Definitely recommend it. And oh yeah, just quick segue. Read the Bitcoin Standard. This guy is Saifedean. I'm also self-errors. Anyways, mention his name well, but that's a very good book you should read. Just a quick segue. So this is Elon Musk. Elon, well, we don't have to introduce him. Started his career in PayPal, or he started PayPal, one of the starters of PayPal, and he's done incredible things. Also, we know Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood is a genius, super brilliant lady. This is her chilling out on her Tesla. Now look at this cute Bitcoin T-shirt. Anyways, she's also invested a lot in Tesla as a company. And lastly, we know Jack Dorsey, the founder himself of Twitter, or arguably one of the founders, and also a programmer. And yeah, basically these are rock stars. Everybody knows who these folks are. And you just have to look at Jack Dorsey's interesting T-shirt, which I just thought, this is what he wore at the Bitcoin Fund conference, and here it is again with this nice tie and dye. I don't know what's with that. But anyways, more than their clothes or whatever it is that they're wearing, these guys are rock stars. So this talk was so cool. So I'll just highlight some of the things that I got out of this talk. So the first question was, what was their thesis about Bitcoin? And they all seem to think that Bitcoin is a great store of value. So let's just go over one talk real quick.
And let's start with Cathie.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Well, the first thing was our focus on disruptive innovation. So starting in 2011, Brett Winton, our director of research, who I know will be on the program later, he started talking about this thing called Bitcoin at the time. And it was a curiosity as we were doing our brainstorms in research, but as we learned more about this open source ecosystem that might fulfill the role of the payment system that the internet neglected to build into the system, not expecting commerce, we thought, this might be something. And then I became even more interested when I realized that my economics would come into play as well here. And Art Laffer, my mentor from USC and a monetary scholar, in 2014, I asked him if he would collaborate on a paper on Bitcoin. And he was a bit of a naysayer at first, but agreed to read the paper. He read the paper, tore it up, and from an economics point of view, really wanted to understand this. And he said, I think you got something here. This is a rules-based monetary system. I've been waiting for this for my entire career.
That's so powerful. A rule-based monetary system. And for someone like who's a mentor to say that he's been waiting for this for you, I mean, that really resonated with me. So I'll just play one more.
So the combination of disruptive innovation generally, economics on top of that, and the huge misunderstanding out there as to what this is, that was intriguing and launched our research effort.
So I'll just show you real quick on something about Ark Invest, if I can find it. Now these guys have invested in a lot of different companies. They invest in, I think that was so cool, worth mentioning. It's $52 billion under management, which is insane. So they have a research center, and they've written a lot of white papers on disruptive technology. One of the things they've written on is about Bitcoin. They've written a lot of white papers on Bitcoin. So these guys know what they're talking about. So you should check out some of these white papers, which I have read, and they're really amazing. So Cathie's talk and how she does her segue talking about disruptive technology was huge for me. So now let's really go over to the next person was, I think, Elon. Let's see what Elon says.
Before something that is better from an information theory standpoint. So, and there's like data on a network, I think, is the way to view it. What has the most throughput? What has the least error? The loss of word processors packets, for example, being a source of error. and the government interference in currencies being a source of error. But it's fundamentally an information system. So I think it makes sense to support something that improves the quality of information with which we conduct the economy. And Bitcoin is a candidate for that. It does, I think, some things well, and it's obviously it's evolving, and there are additional things like Lightning being done on top of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin per se is mostly solving for scarcity, or rather solving for essentially having no throat to choke, decentralized. So there's no one who can be coerced in any way to empty that Bitcoin account. Well, I guess they could technically on an individual basis, but the system as a whole cannot.
All right, then let's quickly go over Jack Dorsey's and Jack's intro into Bitcoin and what he had to say about Bitcoin. So let's real quick. If this thing.
When I was a kid, and I encountered alt cypherpunks when I was fairly young, and this was a topic of discussion for years. I didn't touch it until 2008 when we started Square. Elon and teams at X and PayPal inspired a lot of what we were trying to do, kind of bringing more to a physical world. But we encountered this crazy predatory system that was slow, that was obtuse. And I think one of the things that we tried to do, which X and PayPal also tried to do, is build an abstraction layer around this complication and around this predatory nature that the financial industry can tend to be, and make it work for people. But when I saw Bitcoin in 2009, you see a chance to replace the whole foundation. And everything that Elon was talking about in terms of ACH and the credit card networks were built with very different agendas and a very different time frame, and it's crazy that they still exist and they have scaled, but they just are not relevant to today, and they're certainly not relevant to the future, especially when you consider the entire world. Yeah.
So what Jack Dorsey was specifically talking about was ACH. Now ACH stands for Automated Clearinghouse. It's interesting in the day and age that we live in, that you can send money to, or you can send an email to anybody anywhere around the world and they get that email instantly. But when it comes to payments, I've said it before, it's faster for me to put money in a suitcase, fly on a plane, and fly to China and go to a bank in China and deposit the money in the bank than it is to do a wire transfer from here to China, because a wire transfer will take 3 days, which is insane. But ACH is how when you deposit a check into your accounts, it takes 3 days to clear, and that's even local, whatever country you're in. If you're in Africa, if you live in the US, live in Canada, most countries that do have an ACH platform, which is a clearinghouse for checks, it takes 3 days, which is insane. And in the day and age that we live in, that we can transfer value, we should be able to transfer value immediately. If you try and imagine that banks only open 5 days a week, try and deposit it, go to your bank on a Sunday, they're not going to open. And they have what they call working days, which is just technically 5 working days. It doesn't make sense. So he's talking about this, talking about Square and the things needed around that. So these are my big takeaways from this talk. I won't bore you to death, but I definitely think you should watch this. But these are a couple of things that I took away that were huge. First thing, what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk, who is arguably one of the richest people in the world, says that aside from the stock he has in Tesla and his ownership in his own companies like SpaceX and like the Boring Company and Neuralink, he doesn't own anything aside those. Besides, hear this, Bitcoin. His own words, Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, a little bit of Doge, but predominantly Bitcoin. Now, for someone like Elon, who is arguably one of the smartest people in the world, he's saying that he doesn't invest in anything outside his own companies, doesn't buy any stock outside any other company besides, and he buys Bitcoin. That really, really resonated with me. That wow, I did a video recently about how I spent my life savings on Bitcoin. Maybe I didn't spend my entire life savings, but you should watch that video. Anyways, I highlighted some things, and it just makes me even more and more I hear stuff like this. It makes me more. Now, I'm not saying they're the be all and end all, they know everything, but hey, I always like listening to people who are smarter than myself, and if these guys are leaning in this direction, and Elon, well, I think it's something we should consider. Second thing that was very, very powerful that Jack Dorsey said was, Jack Dorsey mentioned that, he said that if you look at the history of the internet, when the internet was created, there's an error called, which you still saw is a 404 error, which means page not found. In the modern day browsers, there is also another error code that says, I think 402, that says payment not recognized. So which means that when the initial browser was designed, they saw a time where people would be doing payments over the internet, and they made that feature available, at least that error message available in the browser, which is so powerful. So Jack Dorsey mentioned that, he said that if cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin was around in the early days, then it will change Twitter, YouTube, and the way they are making revenue, as opposed to leaning so much on advertising. He didn't go into details, But I'm thinking, imagine a social economy whereby YouTube as a platform has its own token or has Bitcoin as a payment network or cryptocurrencies as for the YouTube community, or to have your Twitter social crypto community. Now that's not what he said, but I'm trying to see what he meant in terms of that. But that's such a powerful concept if you think about it. How crypto will have changed those social media networks. What does that mean today? Today, man, that means that's an advantage for me and for you and I. How we can start to think about how to create our own social networks and leverage cryptos in those networks. And this is already something that is exploding already, which is so powerful. Also something that Cathie Wood said, and how she talked about how disruptive technology and how disruptive Bitcoin is going to be, and how she looked at the layers and she looked at the platform and how researching it, and what she said about her mentor, who, like a lot of us, discredited the idea in the beginning and eventually became believers. I also thought that was so powerful. And this woman that has done a lot in terms of innovation research, and she's looked at she's reading white papers on different things, not just on cryptocurrencies, but on Bitcoin, but on other things. I can't find electric cars and a lot of stuff. Yeah, future of autos, deep learning and artificial intelligence, and she's also leaning towards Bitcoin. I thought that was very, 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 that was a huge one. And then there's so much to unpack in this talk. So I'm going to let you watch it, but this is a very great one. And if these great minds are coming together to talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, then this is definitely something that we should lean on. And so let me just see if I can find one more talk.
India and its interconnection with countries like the United States and Canada and all over Europe. So what really drove my thinking and drives my passion around it is, like, if the internet gets a chance to get a native currency, what will that be? And to me, it's Bitcoin because of those principles, because of that creation story, because of its resilience, because of the number of tests it's been. But what inspires me the most is just community driving it. It just reminds me of the early internet. It's the only reason that I have a career, because I learned so much from people like who are building Bitcoin today. And I continue to learn in that sense, and I'm so grateful for it.
Powerful. So Bitcoin is the internet of money. How you also talked about remittances and how when people transfer money, like between Nigeria and Ghana, different parts of the world, or from the US to El Salvador, or to people who live in different parts of the world, sending money back home, remittances, they lose about 30% of their income or what they're sending, just based on what the middlemen, like the Western Unions and the MoneyGrams of this world collect. And Bitcoin strips that away, because you can send instant payments with a very fractional fee, as opposed to what you get from what you lose from the big players, the middlemen who are taking such a huge cut of what's been sent. So lastly, something else that they touched on was mining. I know in the beginning when Tesla as a company bought a lot of Bitcoin, and then eventually Elon Musk came out to say that he was concerned about the usage or the energy usage of Bitcoin, and there was some sort of pullback. But he leaned on that a little bit, and he talked about how him and myself and Cathie Wood, and by the way, Cathie Wood and Jack Dorsey have written a paper on Bitcoin mining. You should check out on ARK Invest as well. And it's a very, very extensive paper, and they're going through all that. Anyway, so they were talking about it, and Elon mentioned how, yeah, he believes that if we can find a way to reduce that and use renewables for an area of mining, and we can reduce that carbon footprint. Those are not his exact words, but in terms of that Bitcoin mining ecosystem, make it more efficient, make it more ESG compliant, then that's something that will now allow Tesla to go back into buying Bitcoin. He talked about how Tesla owns Bitcoin. He talked about how SpaceX as a company owns Bitcoin, and in his personal portfolio he has Bitcoin, he has Doge, and he also has Ethereum as well. It's a very, very great talk. There's so much to unpack from this. So let me just play one more thing.
Well, you can just put your private key in something that has dual access or voting access as an application on an existing network.
Right. So the Bitcoin community is known for staunchly defending Bitcoin's principles. Sometimes it can be rude and aggressive, but I think what it stems from is just a desire to not have wealthy or powerful people or institutions negatively impacting Bitcoin or sort of changing the rules in favor of them. I'm curious to hear from each of you what role you feel like you and your own institutions, your own companies, what role can you play in Bitcoin, and how do you positively impact it without having these negative drawbacks? Cathie, maybe start with you.
Sure. Well, ARK has stood for two things: democratization and transparency. Democratization, we're the closest you'll find to a venture capital fund in the public equity markets, and I kind of feel that Bitcoin, or we have Bitcoin's DNA from that point of view. One of the things in terms of democratization is education. We have one of our missions, values, is to educate. And I do believe that that some of Yassin Almandra's white papers, Yassin's our lead crypto analyst, who's worked very closely with you, Steve, on this conference, are helping the cause. We've done, and not only for retail investors, we found that we had to do a bit more when it came to institutional investors, just because of the way that they invest and the way they like to receive information. So just like in our investments, we've been the retail community has been more attracted to us first, and now the institutional community is coming along. So I do think our transparency of research, especially in the social world, social media, pushing our research out for free to anyone, is part of our way of helping the community. And I do think encouraging, and this is something that Jack just said, I would encourage the support of the Bitcoin core developer community. As I said before, it's amazing to me, having gotten to know some of them, how strong their sense of purpose is here. And so we'd like to be helpful in making that happen as well.
All right, so basically you're talking about their personal role and what they feel that their role is in supporting Bitcoin. You should watch it. And Cathie has elaborated how they've made white papers free and they've made them available for everyone on the internet. And it's true, you can actually read those white papers, which are amazing white papers. I mean, when you get stuff for free, sometimes people we don't expect it to be high quality because it's free. But those research papers are very thorough, and you should read them. You don't have to. I promise you get a lot of value in doing that. And she also talked about how she's supporting the developer community. And Jack also leaned on that too. There was also a part in this talk where Elon was asking Jack Dorsey if Twitter as a company is going to start accepting cryptocurrencies as opposed to using the advertising model, which Jack alluded to earlier, talked about the beginning of the internet. Elon actually probed him on that and said, so are you going to allow, is Twitter going to what's the word? Is Twitter going to start accepting Bitcoin, which I thought was really cool. Jack talks about his role. Square as a company has helped so many funded developers, core developers who are focus full-time on Bitcoin development. And Elon also mentioned his role as well. So let me just quickly forward this. I know Jack's talked about that. Let me just walk through.
And I think it can have an empowering effect for individuals and increase the power of the individual relative to government. It really, if you think of government is just a corporation in the limit. So sometimes some people are like, against corporations but for government. It's like, guys, government is just a corporation in the limit. It's the biggest corporation of all, and it's got a monopoly on violence. So if you don't like corporations, you should really hate government.
There you go. All right, we got about we'll better wrap up in 10 minutes. So let's move on to the future of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so that's all I have. I don't want to play the entire thing, but it's definitely something to watch. It should be marked in the Hall of Fame of Bitcoin talks, because I'm not sure whether I would love to have this, if these guys could come together again and do another talk. I know there's another conference coming up, and I know Elon is going to be on that as well. I study, try to, everything about Cathie Wood has put on the internet. There's some people in Bitcoin that I really followed a lot. Cathie Wood is someone I listen to a lot on Bitcoin. Another person is Andreas Antonopoulos, and the third person would be a couple of other people. Pomp, I mean, I could go on and list all of them, but yeah, these are definitely the brainiacs behind this space, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen in the future. So yeah, well, that's all I have for today. So watch out. I'll put a link below to this conference. Make sure you watch it over and over and over again. There's so much in this talk. So next time, I wish for you that you learn more about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is changing and will change the world, especially in the area of finance. And in my personal opinion, those who get involved early will greatly impact the future. And if that's you, that's what changes the world.
If you would like to create more awareness for your brand or content, or you would like to earn additional income, register now on www.cliquey.com. The more you share, the more you earn. Cliquey.